This is a Conservative Czar, December 4th, 2012. I want to talk about the possibility, increasing possibility that Barack Obama wants to go over the fiscal cliff, and that's his bottom line here. He wants to force us off the cliff, and because it gets a lot of what Barack Obama wants. There's a lot of benefits to liberals and Democrats if we go over the fiscal cliff. And we get across the board tax increases, pretty substantial tax increases. Yes, he'd have to eat the $1 trillion worth of sequestered cuts. The only real cuts that are on the table, all this mirage that's going on between Boehner and Obama, the only real cuts on the table are these $1.2 trillion sequestered cuts that are actual cuts. It amounts to about $100 billion in cuts this year. The only cuts that have ever been on the table, here they are in front of us, and neither Boehner nor Obama wants them. In the Republican proposal just made yesterday, they're ignored. They're just as if they don't exist. The one thing they can agree on, these two guys, is that we don't want cuts, and they both agree on it. But the fiscal cliff benefits Democrats, traditional Democrats, because it raises taxes. They'd have to eat the sequestered cuts because they won't be compromised away. And that's to the benefit of the Democrats. So I think there's a real possibility that Barack Obama is just trying to position himself to go over the fiscal cliff and have these massive tax increases and blame it on the Republicans. That's the way it's going to go. No matter what happens, the Republicans are going to get blamed. Republicans have only one solution. And it's a real solution, and I'm giving advice to John Boehner, the wuss of all wusses, the terrible leader of the Republican Party. He is just terrible at negotiating these things and positioning the Republican Party. But this is what he should do. He should say, we go over the cliff, we are not going to extend the debt ceiling. Now, that debt ceiling has been ignored by everybody, and I believe even John Boehner wants to ignore it because that means he has to act tough, and he doesn't want to act tough. He has no concept of how to act tough. But that's the only way to stop the president from going over the fiscal cliff. You tell the president, you go over the cliff, we're not going to extend the debt ceiling. And what that means is we go over the cliff, taxes increase, we get the $1.2 trillion in cuts, still sequestered cuts, and because we're borrowing so much money to fund the federal government, if we do not extend the debt ceiling, then we're talking about a 20% reduction in government spending, federal government spending. It's draconian, but there would be no more debt problem. The debt problem would be solved. We would have what conservatives have wanted for a long time, a reduced federal government. Might not be exactly how we want it to be done, but if the president's going over the fiscal cliff and we threaten that back to him, it'll bring him back to sensibility. It's the only thing that's going to move the Democrats. It's the only thing that will give some credibility to the conservatives and the Republican Party is to get tough. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Boehner's not going to get tough. This is all about what the president will allow us to take, what the president will allow us to have. He's in charge because we have unbelievably weak leadership. This is the Conservative Czar. See you next time.